Welcome to New York Festivals leadership panel, Carving Stairs into Stone. I'm Chantelle Brinkley, Managing Director at Zerotrillion. Since our last episode, I've been reflecting on the challenges and opportunities that come from being, as a woman, an outsider when it comes to leading in business. Our careers are often a delicate balance between trying to fit in and standing out. And with that dichotomy of that insider-outsider idea, I'm thrilled to welcome today's panelists. Welcome Lee Piper. Lee is an award-winning group creative director at Yahoo, who oversees both brand and product advertising. Shalini Stansberry is the Vice President of Marketing for Kinder Snacks at Ferrero USA. She is currently leading the business to establish Kinder as a power player in the market. Rebecca Kovalcik is the Senior Creative Director of Happy Family at Danone. Under her leadership, she has helped take Happy Family from startup to the #1 organic baby food brand in the country. So as you each reflect on your individual career paths, what are some of those key pieces that have helped you excel along the way?
I know for me, coming up on the creative side at ad agencies, all of my mentors were male, all of my teachers were male. And so I really learned to lead by emulating men. And I'm very, very lucky to work for a company that's super focused on professional development. Got to work with a coach there who helped me understand what got me here isn't gonna necessarily get me there to wherever I wanna go next. Through that experience, I started to just open up with some curiosity about why I was leading with the style I was, and started to ask, what happens if I start to lead as a woman and from the place of my heart rather than in spite of being a woman? And really bringing my yoga practice, my meditation practice, my study of the Dharma to my everyday and to my team. And that really changed the trajectory of my leadership and how I feel. It allows me to be much more centered, much more present when I lead, and much more honest. And I've found that that's made a huge difference for my teams and for myself for sure.
Shalini, did you have a similar experience ever?
Yes, absolutely. I think it takes a while to define your own style of leadership to find what works, because some words said out of one person's mouth coming out of somebody else's mouth may not have the same impact on others. So I think being true to who you are, having conviction in yourself, and most importantly, I think being kind to others and making them feel comfortable in their own skins really helps to drive the result.
I love the idea of being in tune with the individual versus trying to roll out the same leadership style throughout. I think that's so important.
Yeah, I think early on in my leadership journey, I was like, this is who I am, and took a one-size-fits-all approach. But depending on the individual that you're working with, the level of experience they have, their own personality type, you've really got to adjust. But those lessons come with time.
I learned an important lesson in that respect, in that I used to approach everybody I mentored through the lens of my eyes. What would I want if I were in their situation? And then over time realized that they may not be exactly like me. They may not want the same things that I want. They might not want the same opportunities. They might not be comfortable doing the same tasks. And so really, I love that, just tuning into what each person really needs and wants, how they need to be spoken to, what kind of opportunities they're really interested in.
Yeah, what motivates them, absolutely.
We talk about that as well. We learn a lot about like color energies at our work. And I had the same experience where creative side, you come up as, there were a lot of males around and they celebrated that powerful woman coming into the room. It wasn't until I moved into a female-led organization where I quickly realized that style had to shift drastically. And it was very much embracing, like, this is who I show up as, this is my color energy. But now I have to understand the people on my team too, and what do they resonate with? And as a leader, it was about, how do I shift myself to make sure that I'm speaking to the right person and tapping into what they need. And it overall changes the communication in the team.
As you climb the ranks and get closer and closer to the C-suite, so to speak, I've found that feeling of being an outsider gets more and more prevalent. Often I could be the only woman in the room. And how do you navigate those situations, or have you faced that?
Unfortunately, I face that more times than we probably have time to name. You know, I had one experience where I was being promoted to associate creative director, and my boss took me out to a white tablecloth lunch and said, you know, do you realize that if I promote you, everybody's going to think that we had something going on? He used more colorful language than that, unfortunately. And I said, no, it doesn't bother me because I don't think anybody would think that. Everybody knows that I'm talented. Everybody sees how hard I work, and nobody is going to think that. I can't imagine that, you know, a male ACD would ever be hearing that.
Never. I think that's an incredibly brave response for that being put in that situation.
That idea that women in this industry have to be tougher, have to have a thick skin, have to be willing to let things bounce off of us, that things shouldn't even be coming our way, that we have to bounce them off.
It really does take the moment of challenging those times and giving feedback, like, hey, we were in this meeting and this is what was said, and I just really want to understand what you were getting at. And I think breaking the cycle and calling people out on those moments is so important, and hopefully will make a change for people coming up.
You know, I think in terms of women who are coming up in their careers, you know, that would be the advice I would give to them, is to know what you're worth, know your business, know your data, and know that everyone in the room has something unique to bring to the conversation. And no matter what level of the organization you're in, you have the power to inform decisions and arrive at solutions.
I think that's so true. And even the most junior creative can show up to a meeting in a position of power when she has the notes, right? When she was listening at a creative briefing, when she wrote down those key words that the client, you know, spoke, and what are they looking for? What was the real insight that should be behind this work? That's a piece of advice I give a lot.
And so what advice would you give, or how have you dealt with that kind of back and forth of being told or encouraged to really take up space and lead, but then once you do so, being told, you know, being pushed back on?
I've found more recently that I can be very strong by being more quiet, by listening, by being really curious. And that's a different mode than being outspoken. We've all received that advice of, yeah, I want you to show up, but could you show up a little less show-uppy?
Yeah.
I've just learned to do it in a different way. You know, I think you can be a really strong personality in the room without always being the loudest voice. And I think also if you are the loudest voice in the room, that's okay too. You know, it's okay to be a dissenting voice. And I'm lucky to have a boss who says, thank you for the times when you're saying something that's contrary to what everybody else says. And I think that's important too as we mentor others. Thank you for being a dissenting voice in the room can be a really powerful phrase.
I think we as leaders have a responsibility in terms of the language that we use. I think encouraging people to take up space and be strong may connote more masculine traits. And for someone who feels like that is way too far outside of their comfort zone, the risk of giving them that kind of direction means that they shut down altogether.
You have to kind of get comfortable with, like, yes, this is the space that I'm going to take up. I do really strongly believe in these things. They're important to me, they're important to my team, they're important for the business. And holding that conviction, like you were saying, I think it's when people push back and saying, well, she's too intimidating. I've gotten that feedback in the past. And I do always want to say, but why? You know, what is the thing that's causing this? And it's hard because usually when you get that feedback, you immediately retract because we don't want to hurt people, of course. But there needs to start to be that conversation around why is this person making me feel intimidated? How can I help people feel more confident to stand up when they do have a quieter, more introverted personality? And I think some of that coaching is going to help people along the way.
And I think we also have a responsibility as leaders to recognize the true personalities of those in the group. Being outspoken, being the loudest voice in the room is not necessarily aspirational. It's a mode of working, and it's not everybody's mode of working. So what we can do is make space, as you said, for the people who that's not their natural state. If we haven't heard them speak in a meeting, it's asking them not to put them on the spot, but is there anything you'd like to add? Is there anything that hasn't been said? Is there any voice we haven't heard yet? And just making space in that room.
Something that I like to do to prepare people, especially the quieter voices, is to find safer environments for them to practice in. So maybe senior leadership isn't present, but we're doing a call with an agency partner and having them go first in terms of giving feedback. I think there's ways to help them build their confidence so that they are more comfortable with having their voice heard in higher stakes situations.
Yeah, I love the idea of it's not about being confident all the time. No one is confident all the time, but if you can give them the confidence to be comfortable being uncomfortable, you can be then in that headspace of, okay, I'm gonna try this, and then we'll see how it went.
Yes.
And then you can adjust. Each of you have been trailblazers in the industry in terms of paving the way for future generations of women leaders. What is an example of something that you're most proud of in terms of helping to develop and lead the way for new talent?
I'm really proud of a meeting that I lead now once every 2 weeks. It's called Creative Dharma, and it's a chance for any member of the team. It's not gender specific, but it is very vulnerable. It's a chance for members of the team to come together and talk about an anecdote or a conventional piece of wisdom and pick it apart. I often start the meeting with an anecdote from my life, from sort of off the mat, I'll say, outside of work, and what it revealed to me about our work life and the creative process. So these little light bulb moments, it could have been, a trip to the zoo with my daughter, what it taught me about presenting creative work. And then invite everybody to discuss that. Have you ever felt this way? Is there an experience where you've learned the same thing? Do you see anything I didn't learn in this experience? And so opening up to the idea that I'm always learning, I appreciate, I value growth. I don't always have the answer. I'm continually learning, and modeling that sense of just curiosity and interest in continuing to grow it's a meeting that has become meaningful to many members of our team, and I think becomes a springboard for other folks to talk about who they are and not just the projects, to get inquisitive about their own thought patterns. And that has had a really profound effect on the way that many of the women on our team show up, I think.
Well, it creates that space for vulnerability and safety again. Yeah, I love that.
For me, when I think back to some of the more challenging times, career-wise, it was in the first place trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And, not, being on the outside trying to figure out, okay, well, I think marketing is what I want to do, but I'm not quite sure. And it was just a period of mass confusion, essentially. And so what I make a point of doing is anybody who reaches out to me on LinkedIn, asking about the company, asking about, wanting to learn about marketing. What is a day in the life of a marketer? How is marketing different from adjacent fields, whether it be PR or advertising? Really taking the time to connect with them on phone calls and talking to them about my own path, about what a day in the life of a marketer is, things for them to consider, right? Every profession has its good sides and bad sides, so being very honest with them, and in some cases connecting them with the right people, even offering for them to shadow someone or finding ways for them to shadow people in a particular field, whether it be PR or advertising or whatsoever, so that they can see for themselves what it's really about. Because oftentimes in school, you're learning all of this theoretically, but, and it creates a certain illusion of what a profession is. Once you get into it, it can be quite different.
That's so incredibly kind. I think all of us were probably given a shot by someone who said, sure, I'll take that call, or wrote a LinkedIn message probably to many, many people who didn't respond. And getting that one response, I think, can sometimes change the trajectory of someone's life, because they have a really interesting connection with someone and they think, okay, like this sounds really interesting. And just it opens the door to possibilities of what could that next step for me look like. I got a response from this incredible leader. Now that gives me the confidence to try and go out and continue networking.
So much of what we can do, right, is helping others. If you're not lifting people up with you and you're just focused for yourself, none of it matters. You just leave feeling,
Or if your life doesn't work for you because you're busy fulfilling the ideal of a career that somebody else laid out for you. It wasn't until I had a female mentor, and this is 12 years into my career, after previously having all male mentors in ad agencies who were brilliant and I learned tons from. But that was one vision of a career, and it wasn't until my first female mentor at Yahoo told me, it's okay to stay here and to build your family while you're at this job. It's okay to not be jumping from place to place every 2.5 years, and that your career doesn't have to look a certain way for somebody else. It has to work for you. That was like revolutionary for me.
I think we realize that too, right? Like there's so much happening on social media now. Everyone's looking at the perfect. Well, this person, they've traveled to all these amazing places and they've achieved all these things. They've gotten the best awards. They've done all the things. And at a certain point, our careers start to emulate that. What are the things that I can write in my bio that make me look like this person? And you have to start thinking to yourself, who am I doing that for? I think it's okay to exist and be really happy with yourself and your life. And it's hard to separate those things out. Everyone I think sees people in their lives who they're like, I want to be just like that person. And sometimes they're leaders, and sometimes they're your yoga instructor, or they are an inspirational speaker. I've been sending way too many TED Talks to the people on my team lately. But those are the people that should be driving you forward. I think we just have to be happy in our lives, not looking for the next title.
Well, and having your life and the quality of your life also factoring into your metrics of success. Yes. And that it doesn't, and just because you do factor in building a family or spending extra time with loved ones and friends and building a really robust life, traveling perhaps, it doesn't mean that you won't achieve amazing things with your career. I think one of the things that I noticed was that when I, to your point before, Lee, took a step back and said, what do I want out of my life? And then what do I want to be as a leader, and how do I want to show up from a work perspective? It really unlocked a lot more work opportunities as well, and opportunities to shine. Maybe not in the exact same way that I had envisioned when I was just starting out, but in a way that is more meaningful, that feels more true to my core, rather than just looking at, oh, well, I saw this job in Mad Men, and so I should therefore aspire to do that.
Or I aspired to this job when I was 22, 24. I've learned a lot since I was 22 or 24. I've changed. I'm a very different person, and so I can reevaluate now what I want out of my career. It might be different than 24, and that's okay.
I think some of it is about also just seeing our teams around us as individuals, right? The most important thing isn't our jobs. We can love our jobs. I absolutely love my job. I love what I do. I love the people that I work with, and I love my team. But we have to be able to see them outside of that space and make sure that their growth is being fostered, and not, I think you were saying this before, but not for what I want from them, but for what's best for them. And I think there is a new guard coming through of leaders who are truthfully people leaders. This is what my team needs. This is what this person needs to grow and see opportunity. And that's how I got, when I switched over, I didn't really have like the mentors in my agency world. Plenty of people who are amazing, don't get me wrong. But it wasn't until the founder of Happy, I got a meeting with her, and I sat with my managing director at the agency, and I was like, I think I'm gonna take this role. I'm scared to, though, it's different. she was like, you have to do this. This is your growth. This is what's right for you. She protected my job. She made me feel like if I hated it in 6 months, I could leave and come back. She respected me enough for that. But that didn't serve her. It didn't do anything for her. But that was really such an impactful thing for me to see somebody say, you need to do this for you, and it's going to bring you to great places. I hope I can do that for people in the future.
So my last question, we talked a little bit about mentors and having female mentors or male mentors. As you have gotten to higher and higher levels in your careers, do you still have what you would say is a healthy balance of male, female mentors? And how would you describe the kind of importance of each?
There are people that I've met across different companies that I've stayed in touch with. I feel like I have more mentors today than I have before. And it's almost like the challenges become more complex.
Yes.
You know, the political environment is more complex. So I need their advice and their support many times to figure out how to navigate situations. So yeah, I talk to them about career decisions and how to approach different challenges, whether they be with the business or the team, and it's invaluable having that support network.
I haven't had that guide really along the way. I feel as though my career path has always kind of just ebbed and flowed in different directions based on people that I've met and things that have happened, but I've always kind of done things on my own and picked up tips and tricks along the way. I've really relied on my peers, though, in a way that I feel as though my biggest mentor is actually my right hand at work. My team wouldn't exist without her. And she's taught me more than anything. And she's younger than me, and she's in a different career path. But she has really taught me so much. And that's a friendship that I would never give up, and I hope will last whether we stay at Happy or we go in different places. It's really that peer relationship, and I guess that's always been the environment that I've been in.
My partner at work is truly my biggest mentor as well. I think we co-lead our team from such a place of empathy, and we come at it from very different ways. Both very strong personalities, but we really complement each other, and I have learned so much from her. And I think the power of a female-female group creative lead dynamic is not one that you see very often, but it truly creates a safe space for us to really say what we think, really challenge each other, and to challenge ideas, and to come to consensus on how we want to lead the team. So that's been, truly life-changing, career-changing for me as well. And then I'm very lucky to have an extremely empathetic, consensus-driven, takes it slow kind of male boss who is really just somebody I feel I can always share how I'm really feeling with. Is very receptive to that, and that creates a ton of space. So I would say I have some male-female balance in my work life today, but I think there's always room for us to push, and we have to model it too, right? That being open to mentor others is so important.
I do have a lot of male mentors. I would say the mentors who are in above ranks well above mine are mostly male, but I have an incredible group of peers who are women at Chief, and you both, and that really is such a powerful experience to be able to tap into, and what is everyone going through on a day-to-day basis. And but being able to reach out to people and having people be so generous with their time and say, yes, I'll give you those 15 minutes. And that, I think, can really change, give you a different perspective that you can almost use immediately sometimes. Sometimes I'll have these really quick connections and I'll walk into a meeting and it's just kismet that you ended up talking about something that really helps set the stage for your next meeting or your next challenge, and you never know where those pieces of inspiration can come from. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was so wonderful, and I'm so appreciative of your time.
So
Thank
nice
you.
to
Thanks for
meet you
having
all,
us.
and yeah, thank you.